Right now, you feel yourself moving forward. A moment ago, you were somewhere slightly different, thinking a slightly different thought, and a moment from now, you will be somewhere different still. It feels like the most obvious, undeniable fact of existence. Time passes, it flows. We move through it the way a swimmer moves through water. I need to tell you something that has quietly unsettled me for most of my career. When we search for that flow, that movement inside the deepest equations we have ever written to describe reality, we cannot find it anywhere. Not in Newton's laws, not in Einstein's relativity, and most disturbing of all, not in the strange, unfinished mathematics we use to describe gravity and quantum mechanics together. The flowing river you feel yourself standing in right now may not exist anywhere in the actual architecture of the universe at all. Today we are going to walk right up to the edge of that idea together. And if you want to keep exploring the strangest, most honest frontiers of physics with me, make sure you are subscribed, because by the end of this journey, the simple act of glancing at a clock may never feel quite the same again. Let us begin with a photograph album, the kind with thick, heavy pages sitting on a shelf somewhere in your home. Every photograph inside it captured one single complete moment, frozen exactly as it was. Your 5th birthday. A quiet Tuesday morning years ago that meant nothing at the time. The album does not experience these pages one after another. It simply holds them all at once, bound together between two covers. Each page equally real, equally present, whether you happen to be looking at it or not. Many physicists now believe this photograph album may be a far better description of reality than the flowing river we feel ourselves living inside. They call it the block universe, the idea that the past, the present, and the future all exist permanently equally, the way every page of that album exists at the exact same time, resting quietly on the shelf. Under this view, your childhood has not vanished into nothingness. It has not gone anywhere at all. It simply sits on a different page of a book that, in its entirety, already exists. I know how strange that sounds. But this idea did not come from mysticism or speculation. It came directly from Einstein's own mathematics, from the discovery that two people moving at different speeds will genuinely, measurably disagree about which of two distant events happened first. Not because one of them made a mistake, but because there is no single, universal, now shared by everyone in the universe at all. Each observer carries their own slice through that photograph album, and no slice has any special claim to being the one true present moment. If there is no universal now, and every observer's slice is equally valid, then physicists were forced to ask an uncomfortable question. What exactly is flowing, and past what if every moment already sits permanently on its own page? I want to show you where this gets even stranger, because the deepest attempt we have ever made to unify gravity with quantum mechanics produces something genuinely startling. In the 1960s, physicists John Wheeler and Bryce DeWitt derived an equation meant to describe the quantum state of the entire universe at once. And when they finished the mathematics, they discovered something almost nobody expected. The variable representing time simply is not there. It vanishes completely from the equation, leaving behind a description of reality that looks mathematically frozen still, a single unchanging structure with no ticking clock built into it anywhere at all. Picture an enormous mural painted across the ceiling of a cathedral depicting an entire story from beginning to end in one single unmoving image. Now picture someone standing beneath it, walking slowly from one end of the room to the other, glancing up as they go. To that person, the story seems to unfold scene after scene as they walk. But the mural itself never moved. It was always entirely, completely finished, from the very first brushstroke to the very last. The Wheeler-DeWitt equation suggests something eerily similar might be true of the universe itself, and that the sensation of time passing might belong entirely to us, the walkers beneath a ceiling that was, in some very real mathematical sense, already whole. No physicist has fully solved what this equation actually means, and I want to be honest with you about that. Decades of brilliant people have wrestled with it, and the debate remains genuinely unresolved. But its mere existence, sitting at the very foundation of our best attempt to unify physics, is exactly why so many serious researchers now take seriously an idea that would have sounded like science fiction a century ago. That the flow of time might not be a fundamental feature of reality at all, but something closer to an illusion constructed entirely from the inside by creatures like us, who happen to be built in a very particular way. And that raises the question I think matters most. If time does not flow through the universe, why does it feel so powerfully, so undeniably like it flows through us? That is exactly where we are headed next. Stay with me. We discovered that Einstein's mathematics erases any single universal now, and that our deepest attempt to unify gravity with quantum mechanics produces an equation with no time in it at all, a frozen mural rather than a flowing story. But I left you with the hardest question of all. If the universe itself does not flow, why does it feel so completely, so undeniably like it flows through us? To answer that, I want to introduce you to a physicist named Julian Barbour, someone who has spent nearly his entire career following this idea to its most radical possible conclusion. Barbour argues that time, in the way you and I experience it, does not exist at all, not as an illusion layered on top of something real underneath it, but simply entirely not there. In its place, Barbour proposes something he calls a now, a single, complete, frozen arrangement of the entire universe, every particle, every structure, everything captured all at once. According to Barbour, reality is not a sequence of these nows, one following another like beads threaded on a string. There is no string at all. There is simply an enormous, timeless landscape containing every possible now, each one existing independently, with no motion between them whatsoever. Picture a museum containing every photograph that could ever possibly exist, an infinite hallway of frozen instants hung side by side, none of them earlier or later than any other, none of them connected by any actual passage of time at all. Some of those photographs, purely by their own internal structure, happen to contain something remarkable. A person holding a photograph of an earlier moment, a memory, a diary entry, a fading bruise from yesterday's fall. Barbour's radical claim is that this is the entire source of our sensation of time passing. Not an actual flow, but simply the fact that certain frozen nows happen to contain the residue of other nows within them. And our minds interpret that residue as memory, as a felt sense of having come from somewhere. I know this sounds almost impossible to accept, but notice how closely it echoes what we found in the Wheeler-DeWitt equation, that frozen, timeless mural we discovered in the first part of this journey. Barbour is not simply speculating in isolation. He is taking the strange, unresolved mathematics sitting at the foundation of physics and following it exactly where it leads, without flinching away from the destination. Most physicists do not go quite as far as Barbour, but there is another idea, one I find genuinely beautiful, that may offer a bridge between his radical timelessness and the flowing river we all feel ourselves standing in. It comes from physicists Alain Connes and Carlo Rovelli, and it is called the thermal time hypothesis. Picture standing at the base of a vast mountain range, so enormous that you can only ever see one narrow valley at a time, one slice of the whole landscape from wherever you happen to be standing. Someone hovering impossibly high above, able to see the entire range at once, would never describe themselves as moving through it at all. They would simply see the whole shape, all together, all at once. Connes and Rovelli suggest that what we call the passage of time is exactly this kind of limited, valley-bound view, an experience that only makes sense because we are small, embedded observers, capable of perceiving only a narrow slice of an underlying reality that, taken as a whole, may not flow at all. Physicist Carlo Rovelli, in his own writing on this subject, describes something quietly profound. He suggests that if you could somehow observe the entire universe from outside it with perfect, complete information, the very concept of time passing might simply dissolve entirely. What we call time under this view is not a lie exactly. It is closer to something like temperature, a real, meaningful, measurable quantity, but one that only exists relative to a limited point of view, not as some fundamental property woven into the deepest fabric of reality itself. This does not mean your experience of time is fake or that it does not matter. I want to be very clear about that. It means something almost more remarkable. It means the felt sensation of moving forward, of remembering yesterday, of anticipating tomorrow, may be one of the most extraordinary things the universe has ever produced, a genuine emergent phenomenon built entirely from the inside by creatures small enough, limited enough, embedded deeply enough within reality to experience it as a flowing river rather than the frozen, complete structure it may actually be underneath. So where does this leave us at the end of our journey together? We still do not have a final, settled answer, and I want to be honest with you about that too. Some physicists, following Barbour, believe time is close to a complete illusion. Others insist it must be genuinely, fundamentally real, arguing the laws of physics themselves could not exist, could not change, could not do anything at all without it. And researchers like Rovelli suggest the truth may sit somewhere in between, real from our particular vantage point, and yet strangely absent from the view of the whole. I keep coming back to that photograph album from the first part of this journey. Whatever the deepest truth about time turns out to be, every page inside it, every moment you have ever lived, remains permanently, unshakably part of the complete structure of reality, whether that structure flows or simply, eternally, is. Maybe that is the quiet comfort hiding inside all of this uncertainty. Even if the river turns out to be an illusion, nothing you have ever lived is erased by the tide. Exploring these unresolved, genuinely open questions is exactly why I do this work, and exactly why I wanted to walk through this particular mystery with you. If this changed the way you think about the ticking clock on your own wall, then make sure you are subscribed so we can keep exploring these questions together. Tell me in the comments, honestly, does it comfort you or unsettle you to think that time itself might not be flowing at all? Until next time, keep looking up and keep asking what is truly moving and what only feels that way.